difficult task, as we all know. But it's also a loving task, depending on what you're writing, of course. The thing I would like to tell you about this particular book is how it came about. We can thank Cindy Brewer for being a messenger from God. About 5 years ago, I started this book, and I wrote about 2,000 words. And was very busy with the magazine, the writers group, family, so it kind of went to the wayside. And about obviously during that period of time, I would think about, you really need to get back on this book, but of course I didn't. And about 3 months ago, I had this nudge. Now, if you haven't had God nudge you, let me just say, he doesn't do it once. He'll do it several times. But anyway, he nudged me. You need to get the book written. I will. So I did print it off of my computer, and with every intention of sitting down and doing it. But it didn't happen, and then Miss Cindy called. And she said that this book signing was going to be done here at the church. Would I agree to participate? Well, in my mind, I'm thinking about the book that my writers group just finished, called Journeys. And I'm thinking, well, sure, I can do that, because that's already done, no problem. And well, before I hung up from her, there was this nudge again. Not that book, this book. So I called an editor that I know, and I said, I'm going to need you to edit a manuscript as soon as I finish writing it. Then I called a printer that we use for our magazine, and I said, I'm going to need you to take a manuscript and get it printed for me very quickly, because I have a book signing. And she said, well, sure, I'll need about 10 days. She said, is it ready? And I said, oh, no. No, I've got to write it, and I've got to finish it so you can have it. So I did. I sat down at my computer, and when I tell you the words flew to the page, I'm telling you that 8,000 words flew to the pages. When I finished it, I'm going back through and I'm reading it, and I thought, I wrote that? I said that? I was absolutely in awe, because I didn't remember writing some of it. And I did finish it through the grace of God. So that was his will. And they did their parts, my editors and my guy that helped me find the perfect book cover. As you can see, it's called Storms in Life. So the whole thing is the storm. And it was printed, and we got it back. So there's no doubt in my mind, the first 2,000 words I wrote, I'm sure most of you know Earl David. I took the first 2,000 words 5 years ago and was showing it to Earl, and he said, you need to finish that. I said, yeah, I do need to finish that. So when I did finish the manuscript, I called Earl. I know he's been very ill, but I asked him, I said, will you read this for me? He said, yes. And so when he called me back, he said, I now know why God wanted you to write this and finish it. So that's how this book came about. We all have storms. They can be tornadoes. They can be tsunamis, hurricanes, and they're devastating to families. And a lot of families lose loved ones, not just their material things. But somehow we do find a way to pick those pieces up and go forward. But there are other storms in life that aren't quite that easy, and those are the ones that are inside. That's when that doctor looks at you and says, it doesn't look good. It's terminal. Or when the man who is a police officer knocks on your door, we've arrested your child. They were doing drugs and ran over someone. Or I'm here to tell you that your husband was driving driving home and a drunk driver hit him. Or when your child is so strung out on drugs, nothing you do helps. And year after year, you're praying, you're begging, you're pleading God, but nothing is changing. If anything, it seems to be getting worse. So you also have it when the husband loses a job. Now that's devastating to a family, because that will change everything. Everything they've been used to. But I want to read. We've all experienced storms of wind, lightning, thunder, and rain. But there are also storms that occur in our personal lives that can be just as frightening and dangerous. In these storms, fear can sweep over us and leave us paralyzed. The fears we feel in these storms are just as real as the fears the disciples felt that night on the Sea of Galilee. Our minds begin to swirl, shooting deadly negative